Okay, let's try this again. Hello? Nice to meet you. I'm here to play a video game for you, and that video game is Gotoku Ishin. Or Yakuza Ishin. Or Yakuza Restoration, as it might be called in the West. I don't know, because it isn't in the West, because this game won't get localized by Sega. And I already did a video about that. Where I did the demo of this game, actually, and I know it's an hour long, but I went into, I kind of set up my thesis statement about why I'm doing this. Basically, it's, hey Sega, I'm a fan of this game, and I'm in the West. English is my main language, and I'm not bilingual, and I would like to play this game. Maybe me stumbling through it, blind and in the dark, because I don't understand the language, will sway you. I guess. Whatever. Like I said, that's the, mission statement, I guess. Like I said, I went into a lot more detail about that on that video, go check it out. And this one, we're going to stay a lot more focused. Look at this action-packed... Oh! Damn! 3 seconds in, and already this game has had a lot more motherfuckers die than almost every other Yakuza game put together. Okay, this game looks really beautiful on my screen, but what you're seeing might be a little bit less awesome looking than it looks on mine, because were I more technologically savvy... Sorry about that. Were I more endowed with with fucking money, I would have a massive, monolith from 2001 computer that could run Crisis 1, Crisis 2, and Crisis 3 all at once, and not, while streaming it 60 frames per second, and not have any slowdown or hiccups. But unfortunately, I'm just doing this on my little laptop, so it might not be as super high quality, it might drop some frames, it might stutter a little bit, and I apologize for that. If it bothers you, trust me, it bothers me as well. So obviously this is just the cold opening to grab the audience's attention, and it's probably a flash forward for all we know. I don't know why games do that. I'm sure if I knew what they were saying... Ooh, that must have been a bombshell because it had a dramatic lightning sting. I'm sure that means something to people who speak Japanese. Anyway. So, this is... I'm just gonna call it Yakuza for simplicity, because Gotoku is hard and I don't speak Japanese. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Here he's giving us some backstory, and if you're coming into this blind, like most of you might be, you'd have no idea what the fuck's going on. Thankfully, I'm a bit of a history nerd, so I can fill you in. He's probably talking about how Japan has been isolated, has been doing this isolationist thing for about 200 years, but now Western influence is knocking at their door. Ships sailing from the west, the black ships as they were called, come over, start saying, hey, open up, trade, and Japan's like, no. And that's causing a lot of political and international strife throughout the country. I'll explain a little bit more about the nature of that political strife later, but I'll take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the series. The Yakuza series, or Ryuga Gotoku, in Japan, which translates to like a dragon, roughly. I don't know why they called it Yakuza when they brought it over. Probably because Like a Dragon would be a really fucking weird title by Western standards. Japan has this weird thing with fucking titles. Like, they called Deadly Premonition Red Seed's Profile. They called Evil Within Psycho Break. Resident Evil is Biohazard. To be fair, Biohazard is a way better name for that fucking series than Resident Evil ever was or will be. Whatever. The main series of games is about characters who are embroiled in the dealings and espionage and intrigue of the organized crime in Japan, the Yakuza, the Japanese Mafia, as they are known. Though they have a much more sordid history than the Italian Mafia, and are much more integral to Japanese society, but that's neither here nor there. The main character of those games, as we see here, is Kiryu Kazuma, who is a badass. Just look at his little goatee. It's pretty sweet. In those games, he's the main character, and he's known as the Dragon of Dojima, hence the title, Like a Dragon. Anyway, and he's pretty much a badass, even from the get-go, even from the first game, he has a reputation for being a badass. But my favorite thing about the series is, as it goes on, each progressive game, he's treated less like a character, and more like a fucking force of nature, who just walks into the room and suddenly problems get fucking solved. So anyway, we're actually playing the game now, although not very open. This is just the beginning. Interesting tidbit, let's look in his inventory, and he already has something. What is that? That is, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a pastry, it's a dessert from Portugal. It's a Portuguese dessert. Which means, even though we don't understand Japanese, I can tell you that this character was visiting a certain island off the coast of Japan. So he's back on the mainland for the first time in quite a while. Well, I don't know how long, but yeah, it's reasonable to assume he hasn't been here on Japanese soil for a little bit. And that's probably what he's talking about here. I'm not sure. And that actually gets into the history of Japan, which is something I want to talk about, but again, right now I'm going to focus on the series of games here. This is not one of the principal entries of the series, of which there are 5 so far. The 5th one hasn't been brought over to the West, it hasn't been localized, which is annoying. But this and one other game in the series is a spin-off that places these characters that we are familiar with into a different time in Japanese history. The first game that did this was Yakuza Kenzan, or Yakuza Arrives, which was the first Yakuza game on the PlayStation 3. And it was sort of a tech demo. That's why it was called Kenzan, because Kenzan roughly translates to Arrives. So the game was literally called Yakuza Arrives on the PlayStation 3, on the new generation of consoles, because it had been on the PlayStation 2 up until that point. Again, Japan and its naming conventions. It would never be called that over here. It would never be called, "This game is here, motherfuckers!" Anyway, that game did what this is doing. It takes the characters from the mainstream series and puts them in the feudal history of Japanese history. Only, I find it interesting that that game took place at the beginning of the Edo period, while this game is taking place at the end of the Edo period. It's kind of amusing. Kenzan was an adaptation of the story of Miyamoto Musashi, who is probably the most famous samurai in Japanese folklore. And I say folklore for a reason because we don't know an extravagant amount of the actual historical events of what happened, but they have been so mythologized throughout history that most people are more aware of the fictional version of the events, are probably aware of more fiction about the events than actual historical fact. And in principle, there's nothing wrong with that. Every nation kind of mythologizes its own history. I mean, like, just look at the United States. I'm more interested in the historical fact, but I'm always interested in seeing what people do with that history when they adapt it as a story for modern-day audiences. Because obviously, cultural values change over time. And that was actually on display in Kenzan in a lot of different ways, with the changes in the character of Miyamoto Musashi and his deeds, so to speak. Although it wasn't a strict adaptation, it was more of a, like, just... not quite a bastardization, but just using the name recognition to tell their own story. Which isn't uncommon. It's kind of like Miyamoto Musashi's basically like the Japanese version of Robin Hood. Where, you know, just everyone knows the story in broad strokes, but people just do radically different things with that story. Basically do whatever they want. And in that, they basically, I say basically a lot, told a Yakuza story within the trappings of the Miyamoto Musashi mythology. It's a far cry from what they're doing with this game, because this takes place much, much later in Japanese history, and so we have a much more concrete awareness and definition of what actually happened. There's a lot more records and historical fact to go on. So so I'm very interested to see what they do with the story, because they have a lot less leeway, I guess, when it comes to what we know about this period. Although I already know, like, right off the bat, they're totally fucking things over right from the get-go. But I'll get into that later. I'm talking over the cutscenes. Usually that's not my instinct. I usually try to stay quiet during the cutscenes and let you just enjoy the story, but obviously we don't know what they're saying anyway. Even if there were subtitles, I wouldn't feel too bad about it, but especially because the subtitles aren't in Japanese even as well. Ooh. Oh, that is the best way to establish a badass character. I cannot think of a better way to do that. Grabbing the blade. That's fucking hardcore. You don't need to understand Japanese to know that Kiryu is gonna put up with shit. Wish I knew the details of it, but it's probably giving them a dressing down for, you know, abusing their power and picking on the weak and helpless. Not helpless, because he's asking for help, and you're not giving it. Thus, why she's helpless. Whatever, hands and Kiryu. Dude, that guy knocked out. Like, he just, like, I don't think he even punched him. It was like a slap, and it knocked him the fuck out. I don't even need to draw my sword to beat your hands there. I'm the dragon of Dodoma. I will take this opportunity to talk a little bit about this series. As those of you who aren't familiar with it might be going like, what the fuck? Who the fuck? Why the fuck? This is gonna be a tutorial, right? Yep. Whatever. How to play the game. Oh, that's cool! What the fuck? That was pretty badass. Fucking awesome. This is a tutorial. Already this game is like way better and more mechanically resonant and fun to play than the previous games in the series. They really have improved. It's awesome. That went so much better last time I recorded this. I recorded this previously. There were audio fuck-ups with the microphone, so I'm redoing it. Which sucks, because it means the reactions are a lot less genuine right now, this time through. And the things that happened can't be replicated. And they were really cool. Anyway, he's like, you guys are losers, you need to learn how to stick up for yourselves. Not to stand around and let moms get beaten around for trying to protect their kids by these fucking douchebags. There are a lot of you and only 2 of them. Oh no, now I'm gonna get in trouble. Where were you guys earlier? Anyway, he's probably getting arrested because he caused a public disturbance. But again, I'm not sure if, like, they were official dudes and you're not supposed to beat them up. Anyway, what I was trying to do was show off how, by blocking at a specific time when you're fighting unarmed against sword opponents, you kind of, like, deftly move out of the way and throw them. It was reminiscent of in Yakuza 4 how a character in that game, I think it was Aikido, he used moves like that where he like threw the opponent for a loop. It happened so much better, and now it's gonna fucking bug me that I couldn't do it in this one. Anyway, refocusing here. Shit, what was I talking about? This guy's talking shit to him while he's in the jail cell. He's already naked, dude. I don't know why you gotta be a dick about it. So, as I was saying, where this game takes place later in the Edo period. Yeah, I think I got it back. Okay, where these are all recognizable characters from the mainstream series of games, and in the Kenzan game, Kiryu here, the main character, played Miyamoto Musashi, who again is revered as one of the most famous samurai. And in this game, he's playing a well-known figure in history as well. Probably not as well-known or romanticized, but the interesting thing is he's actually playing 2 different characters, which is weird, but I'll explain a little bit more later. But most Japanese players who are aware of the culture and history and everything would recognize his name when people address him by it. They would know who the person he's playing is. Yeah, Kiryu, it's cool that you want to shit talk the prison guard, but he might kill you. Just saying. Like a dick. Anyway, this here is Fuma. In the English translation, they always called him Fuma. Or he might be Marume, but I'm pretty sure it's Fuma. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure. Because the interesting thing about this game is it's running off the Yakuza 5 engine, which is very different. As I said in the last recording, which is now just totally fucked. Just from that tutorial, you can tell that the combat engine, the mechanics of this game, are very improved over the way it worked in the games that we're aware of, in Yakuza 3 and 4, which are the ones that they bothered to localize. And I don't know if these are improvements they had in Yakuza 5 and we're just using in this, or if it's unique. I know the swordplay is obviously unique because obviously this game takes place in the samurai era where they're using swords. Swordplay is going to play a lot into the combat of this game. But it's just really nifty. And like I was talking about with the way Kenzan was called Arrives, where it was basically a tech demo, this game is similar to that, because this is the first Yakuza game on PlayStation 4, on the next-gen consoles. Again, they are doing a historical spin-off story to introduce this series arriving on the new generation of consoles, which is cool. I wonder if they're going to do this every time. It makes me look forward to the next generation of consoles coming out to know that Yakuza is going to do a fucking samurai story, which is great. There's not enough good samurai games out there. And these are one of them. Kenzan and this are two really good samurai games, and we're not gonna get them because we don't live in Japan. Yay! Fuck. I don't know what they're talking about here. Do they know each other? Or is he just like, yo dude, I saw you were badass. Represent. They might know each other, I'm not sure. If that is Fuma, he, in the mainstream series, he's Kiryu's adopted father. Oh, he adopted Kiryu. But hey, he let us out, so I guess either he just plain likes us, or they do have that pre-existing history. We have a little bit of leeway to run around now, although that point here on the map is where we're supposed to go. But we can walk around and explore a little bit. And the tutorializing elements begin. As you're saying, you can look in shit to find shit. Let's see if we can find anything in this shit by looking at this shit. Yes, we did. It's awesome. We'll go over here, and this bitch is talking about how you can save your game by praying at a shrine. Let's do that right now. Yeah. So, as I was saying earlier, Kiryu here, I don't know how to pronounce, nor do I know exactly who the historical person he's playing in this game, so I'm just going to call him Kiryu for simplicity. Kiryu here has been to an island off of mainland Japan, which is used in this era as kind of a middleman or a buffer zone for foreigners, usually Portuguese, traders, to trade with Japan. Because in this period in history, foreigners were restricted from even being on Japanese soil. And why is that? I will tell you. This is the Edo period of Japan, the end of the Edo period, but the period before the Edo period was the Sengoku period, also known as the Warring States. It was basically just a massive cross-national fucking civil war, where the centralized leaders of Japan were becoming weak, and everyone took that as an opportunity to vie for power and take control for themselves. It's basically like if, imagine the United States, all 50 of the United States went fuck it and started just warring with each other. So it was like California versus Arizona, Pennsylvania versus New York, Mississippi versus Florida. Why would anyone want Florida? I don't know, but that's what happened. All these individual states and provinces in Japan just fighting each other, and by the end of it all, when the dust cleared, we're gonna get drunk and have a little snack now that we're out of jail. Yeah. Have some of this. This looks good. Delicious! We can also get drunk. Notice that little flashing booze icon there. that has effects on gameplay. It's really cool. Once the period of civil war ended, the Tokugawa, that guy disappeared. He's a ghost. Don't know. I guess that's bait, but I'm not 100% sure. The Tokugawa clan emerged victorious and unified all of Japan under their rule. And they took steps. They pretty much instituted a complete isolationist attitude, where they wanted to completely close off Japan from the outside world. Not an uncommon sentiment. Japan's always kind of had that attitude where they're like, we're an island nation, we don't want to get in anyone else's business, no one get in ours. Even to this day, although to a much less degree than at this period in history, where, again, foreigners were forbidden from even being on Japanese soil. And there were foreigners on Japanese soil before that point. Throughout the Sengoku era, the Warring States period, Portuguese traders in particular were coming over, and they took advantage of the war to trade, and they also introduced not only goods and stuff of that nature, but weapons as well. They brought over gunpowder weapons like guns, muskets, that kind of thing. And that changed the nature of warfare forever in Japan. Like, before that was all bows and arrows and spears and swords and shit. Now, guns are here, and guns are the great equalizer, as they have always been in, throughout history. So now it's not just the samurai who can, like, be guaranteed to win in a fight. Like, 100 samurai versus 100 peasants with fucking guns, it's not so clear-cut anymore who's gonna rise on top. But they also brought other things. I'm gonna sneeze. I'm trying to fight it. Anyway, they brought Western culture as well, including Western religion. They actually brought Christianity with them. Priests came over. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm a buy rice ball. And they brought they started converting people. So there are a lot of Japanese Christians, actually. Sorry, it's summer. My allergies are starting to prick at me. That's why I'm shirtless. It's fucking hot, okay? So I'm sorry. Gotta just deal with it, I guess. So there were a lot of Japanese Christians. Not like an extravagant amount. It's not like half the population or anything, but there were a fair number. And after the Tokugawa came to power, they were like, nope. Get the fuck out of here. And so they tracked down priests who were converting people and crucified them. Because irony is awesome. And they actually tracked down, made it a point to find converts, Japanese converts, who had become Japanese Christians. They would, something they would do actually is they would go to towns that were suspected to have Japanese Christians in them, and they would take a picture of the Virgin Mary, throw it on the ground, and order them to stomp all over her face. And if they didn't, if they hesitated for even a minute, they were like, Christians, kill them. Which actually, obviously was fucked up, but like, it actually had kind of an interesting effect. Because one of the many famous figures who had emerged from the Warring States period, Date Masamune, was very friendly towards Christianity in his realm to foreigners bringing over stuff, and it was actually suspected his wife might be Christian. That's neither here nor there. So, again, Tokugawa was like, foreigners coming over, nope, get the fuck out. We don't want your goods, we don't want your culture, we don't want your presence. We'll keep your weapons, though. Thanks for bringing guns. I'll keep those. Thanks very much. Kind of a dick. At least in regards to that, but the Tokugawa actually established peace over all of Japan for a good 200 years. Seriously, 200 years. That's a long fucking time. Especially in that point in history. They managed to avoid civil war and rebellion and established relative peace over the entire country for 200 goddamn years through very shrewd diplomatic dealings and treatment of his vassals. But hey, gotta hand it to him there at least. Look at this cat. This cat's a badass. You can just tell. But you can't keep it up forever. At some point, Western influence came knocking at their door, and you can't always resist it. And that's what the plot of this is about, but there was a country to the north of mainland Japan, which was kind of used as a buffer zone, a middleman, for mainly Portuguese traders to, like, land there, where they were allowed, and they would meet with Japanese people from the mainland and trade with them. And that's most likely where he got this, because this is like a dessert in Portugal, so he probably got it from there. That's how we know he was at that island off the mainland Japan. Okay, this is a minigame. There's a wood chopping minigame, actually. Okay, I get it. Okay, when his hands flash, we press the button, and we'll chop the wood. Oh, it's like Skyrim! Oh no, I fucked up. I bet. Oh yeah, it's like the Elder Scrolls. Chopping wood! Don't anticipate it. The minute you see his... Oh, no, see? That was too early. So it's not the instant his hands glow... See? It's not the instant his hands glow blue. It's like right now. There we go. Keep going. Yeah! Chopping wood! What we're doing? I don't know, we're chopping wood. Getting paid for it. It's getting faster. There we go. Yeah, keep it coming. What do we do? Chopping wood. Suck it, Skyrim. This is way better chopping wood than your stupid game. What you got? Fucking A. Aw, only 20. Now, thanks for your help. Well, thanks for the money, buddy. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, full disclosure, I was trying to make the first last recording, so it didn't go through. So I was trying to remember if it's anything. So that's what it was. I was listening to the previous recording and being like, oh no. The recordings in this is starting to break down even. I have to stop this soon. So, I was just trying to say, like, it was very interesting to me that after the Warring States period was the Edo period, where under the Tokugawa's rule, and it was interesting to me how Yakuza Kenzan took place at the beginning of that era and showed, like, the change in that political environment, and now we're at the end of that era. And we're seeing how it's changed over time, and also how soon it's going to end. Sorry that was a little ungraceful at the ending there. I just wanted to make sure I talked about everything I had talked about before and everything I wanted to talk about. Might have fucked up. Sorry it wasn't so seamless. Hopefully next episode we can get back into the groove of things. God willing, any more technical fuck-ups haven't transpired. But in the meantime, I will see you then next time.